Stella might not be the biggest name on 100 Thieves' new roster, but he certainly might prove to be one of the most impactful.
I think Stellar might be the most underrated player in NA. I genuinely believe that.
As the new IGL for a young team, you don't expect him to pop off statistically all that often. But we just had a 16-4 defensive half where he had a 200 ADR, recently beat Challengers winners the guard, so there's some amazing utility calling to talk about, so let's talk about it. When we're talking about Viper on defense, setups are obviously going to be an important thing to highlight, and there's three main ones to talk about, which we'll set up as setup 1, 2, and 3. The first setup is probably one of the most common and the one that we see initially in the pistol. This setup has you putting your toxic screen through showers and placing a poison cloud one way in this A-shot position, something that you've no doubt seen a lot of. A big win condition for Bind as a map is extremity control. As an attacker, it's in your best interest to talk about these parts of the map, not only for orb control, but also to leverage map position, regardless of whether you end up using showers, for example, to execute or not. It's great to have control of it if you're an attacker, but it's maybe more important to make sure that the defenders don't have control of it, as they'll be on the back foot playing on site, and won't really have an idea on what your game plan is going to be. This is why we typically have the Viper and Sage playing either sides of the map. Another way to think of it is this. In a round we have ebbs and flows of utility, which pros typically call cycles. This is when like flashes, recon darts, certain smokes for other agents is likely to come online again after its 30 to 40 second cooldown. And naturally, as a round goes on, the attackers will have less and less utility to work with, especially if you're playing with Brimstone, who doesn't have rechargeable smokes. You have to be very frugal with where you use these smokes, and it's usually on the execute itself. For a Viper on defense, your wall will always be in showers. Whether the guard try and take showers control early with a huge portion of utility, or whether they wait until the 30-second mark left in the round to then execute, that Viper wall will always be available, making it a great and strong piece of utility to hold these powerful positions. But going into the round itself, Stella is just watching short and letting the duo of Will and Asuna push and keep an eye on the showers control with the help of this wall. A Sage wall is put up on B long, but destroyed early by the guard, which is what I just mentioned. It's a much more passive hold from Stella, but what I like is that whilst he's watching short and each time the enemy Viper puts up that poison cloud that blocks his vision over into that short position, Stella just backs off and holds passively on lamps. He still sees it and has control of it, but as soon as that poison cloud goes down, he'll drop back and go to where he was. This allows him to still keep info in a safe position and not be baited into peeking into potentially multiple players and not having his teammate be able to trade him out. The guard go for an A execute and they only have short control, they don't have showers, so this is important. They split up the site with their Brimstone smokes and they specifically hunt for that showers player to try and crunch them, isolate them and take them out. So the Trailblazer spots Asuna and he knows that he's going to be chased by multiple people, so he actually pushes through showers to see if he can isolate a duel and also use himself as bait for the rest of 100 Thieves. Asuna runs away into showers. Stella and Will hear all of these steps whilst they're hiding in the smoke, and they themselves push through the smoke, crunching onto those players in showers. They put up the Viper toxic screen, again isolating these players that are now stuck here, with Asuna holding the other side of it now, and it's just fish in a barrel at this point, and Stella picks up a nice 4k to start the round. There's a lot of these traps that the guard fall into, and this is why this half is really good to highlight. Round 2 is the same setup versus an eco, so there's not really too much to highlight. The only thing I wanted to touch on is that he sees this initial contact with the chamber, tries to take a fight, and then after he peeks away, he puts up the poison cloud which is behind the chamber, and not only does this deter anybody else from the guard trying to push up through that A-short position, but it also means that Stella can take this fight and not worried about being traded by another guard player in behind. It might also force the chamber to teleport early instead, but in this case he just gets to kill and manages to survive. Round 3, the guard's full buy comes in and we see the second setup for Stella over towards B. The poison cloud is on the exit of Hookah, means it's very hard for anybody from the guard to drop out of Hookah onto the site, and the toxic screen goes across B garden through Hookah and then cutting off a little bit of sand. We even see Brimstone putting a smoke down in this position, augmenting the hold up on sand, but unfortunately nobody from the guard is even there, and it just sort of means that it doesn't get used. The Viper's a bit more lax on the extremity control, but that's because you have Asuna on the sky playing in that B-long position, which is typically where you want to see that sky. Showers control is immediately walled off by the Sage, and it still makes it hard for the guard to execute. But they hit the A site, they go through short, and there's not too much to say about Stella this round. Round 4 is the same setup over towards B. The only thing to highlight that's different is an early snakebite is thrown into Hookah. There isn't really anything to trigger Stella to do this. Maybe he just wanted to shut down a fast execute that could come in, but other than that, I'm not sure why he did it. Another A execute comes in, and Stella is playing on the retake with only a snakebite in utility. He yeets it out from heaven, hopefully catching somebody on the site, and just sprays for the smoke to see if he can get any contact that would then be vulnerable by the snakebite. The fact that he's gone heaven is incredibly important and impactful to highlight. Derek still has showers control. All of the guard is pushed through short yet again. So it's important that Stella takes the 7 control, sees that the whole backside is clear from these brimstone smokes, and now that Asana's coming into metal, you have this nice 3-pronged attack that knows exactly where the guard are playing from in short. The only uncertainty is lamps, which gets cleared by Asana both with a trailblazer and then a flash. And then just watch the map control from this point out. These 3 players being able to crunch down onto guard for a great retake, and it also again highlights why the showers control as an attacker is incredibly important, and you can see 100 Thieves really taking full advantage of it and just shield walling their way into that short spot and having a good retake. Round 5 sees that third and final setup as the ult is online. Stella uses the Viper's Pit towards B long, you have Asana there flashing just to make sure that the coast is relatively clear and plug that area of the map. The Sage also walls showers, so extremity control is very much secured. The Poison Cloud is in that hookah spot again, and the Toxic Screen actually goes across the map to plug this gap in A short. So it's a lot of good map control overall, but the guard go A again, find a lot of space through short, and Stella is just forced to save. This round is the perfect round for Stella. Not only is it great utility, but it's incredibly clever calling and a nice adjustment from 100 Thieves. The Toxic Screen setup is still the exact same over in showers, but the Poison Cloud is actually on the plant default spot. And this is because Nets' Viper's Pit is ready to go and likely going to be used on an execute towards that A site. I mean, it's where the guard have found all of the success so far. The Brimstone from short can obviously smoke that short position on his own, but he can also move over to metal if he needs to and smoke hookah if there's any pressure there. The only place where neither of these controllers can smoke is B long, but that's under heavy contention from both Will and Asana. At the start of this round, Stella snakebites the shower entrance to stop a fast execute happening, and it's enough utility to completely put the guard off from pushing. Both Stella and Bang both back off the site completely to enact their 200 IQ plan. The Poison Cloud is put on the default plant spot because not only do you have the Brimstone holding towards short, but it'll also make it very difficult for the guard to dedicate to the plant. It will obviously decay anybody that steps in that area with the smoke, so look at the fact that there's an orbital strike and various mollies being thrown into that position, all made stronger by this Poison Cloud being incredibly annoying. There's also a snakebite thrown in there to make anybody else that stands in it vulnerable. All of this utility is something that the guard has to respect, so they're unable to put down the spike in time. They're low on it. Even with that Viper's Pit put down, time gets incredibly awkward. Stella and Bang just spray through to deny time and easy kills, and the guard fell right into 100 Thieves' trap. It's a good anti-strat. 2 more rounds to highlight. The penultimate one is Stella clutching out. We start with a B execute and actually looking over towards Bang, who puts a smoking hookah similar to the Poison Clouds that we've seen. It's obviously there to deter anybody from the guard to push out of it from hookah, but also the smoke is chunky enough that if a sky flash comes in onto that site, Bang could just hide in it, look away, not get flashed, and not have his intel given away, allowing him to play on his position and catch the guard by complete surprise. But now we come into the 2v2 clutch. Stella comes through the teleport, giving away his information, and then snakebites the default plan. Asana's coming through defensive spawn, but Stella tells him to wait whilst he goes for this mad flank around from hookah to be long. The second snakebite is perfect where it catches onto Jonah P. It's either going to kill him in this spot, or it forces him to peek into Asana, and Jonah P ends up dying. Saya gets Asana, we're in a 1v1, and Stella again goes for this long rotate option to catch Saya by surprise. It's just good composure and a good team plan again that gets set up from 100 Thieves. Final round of this half, it's the same showers control, and we get to see it work again up against the guards. The guard dedicate a lot of early utility to try and take this showers position, both with an orbital strike and a paint shell to try and clear it. They do isolate these positions, and they do get a kill onto Asana, However, because of this wall, Will is still able to change up his position and get in close to avoid the paint shell. All of these guard players disrespect the wall, they push through, they get decayed, and Will just meat grinders them up. All of these players are up for Stellar to get these assists, and it again highlights exactly why this showers control for the toxic screen is so good and why people should be using it more. I was heavily critical on the way that 100 Thieves dealt with the whole Eccles situation, for example, but I love this new team. It's some great diamonds in the rough, and it's obviously a long-term project. Big fan of the direction that they're going in, for shout out to them, and shout out to you for watching this. I really like making these videos. It's good to highlight a different perspective by just highlighting one player instead of the whole team macro stuff. But if you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments below, and if there's an agent you'd like to see next, or a player, for example. But thanks for watching, take care, see you soon.